thank you everyone for coming here today. We really appreciate it. I want to acknowledge my friends and leaders in this community that are here to support me in our message today. We're here to talk about crime in Maryland and crime in Baltimore and what we can do about it. I wish that this was not a necessary conversation, but given the state of violence in this city, this problem cannot be ignored. Baltimore is an amazing city, the backbone of our great state. But Baltimore, to succeed, must fix its crime problem. For too long, politicians have had their heads in the sand making excuses and not doing their jobs while crime gets worse and worse. This must change. We stand here in the neighborhood of Rosemont, a neighborhood that has long been known for its blue-collar, hard-working people, real Baltimore people. But it is also a neighborhood that has been neglected and the victim of out-of-control violent crime. I want to make it very clear that while we need new strategies to deal with crime, and we certainly need to put repeat violent offenders behind bars, we also need a renewed effort to bring hope and progress back to neighborhoods just like this. And I can promise you that while one of my top priorities is to make the streets of Baltimore safe again and to ensure that families can walk through their neighborhoods like this, with their heads held high, without fear of being victimized, I will also be the governor that fights like hell to bring even more resources to this city that everyone can prosper. Public safety is the first priority of any elected official, and by any normal measure, the elected officials of Baltimore City are failing its residents. Over the last 6 months, we've had over 180 murders. June was the deadliest month in 7 years, and the first 6 months of this year were the most violent 6-month stretch in the history of Baltimore. Sadly, once again, we're not only going to surpass 300 murders this year, but we might even reach 400. This is an unfathomable tragedy, hundreds of souls, hundreds of stories that will never get told because elected officials don't have the courage to do what's right. The men and women in law enforcement in this city have been the target of political attacks and blame they don't deserve for far too long. If crime is getting worse and there are issues with the police force, you don't demonize the people risking their lives every single day. You come up with new plans and you get to work. So as governor, let me tell you what I'm going to do to start. First, by the time I am governor, if Baltimore City does not have a crime plan that is working, I will implement a Baltimore Crime Commission made up of top criminal justice and law enforcement experts from around the state and around the country if need be. I truly hope that I don't have to do that, but hope is not a strategy. Second, I will make the resources available to hire hundreds of more officers for this city and to get them the training they need to do their jobs right. If I have to tap the state's rainy day fund to get it done, so be it. This is a crisis that needs immediate action. The days of defunding the police are over. It's time to refund our police and defend our police. If the legislature doesn't agree with me, then we will have to fight for all of Marylanders to see. Third, just like Governor Hogan has done, I will submit emergency legislation to ensure that repeat violent offenders are put behind bars and those who commit crimes with illegal guns receive stricter penalties. It couldn't be more clear that many criminals are quite frankly not afraid of the consequences. They have been emboldened by a weak prosecutor who is more focused on getting people out of jail than making sure that violent offenders are off of our streets. There are laws on the books for a reason. Whether it is Marilyn Mosby or any other prosecutor, they must do their job. 4, you can have all the laws in the world, But if you don't have good prosecutors to make the case, they are worthless. As governor, I will launch an unprecedented 2-year enforcement program built around 25 elite prosecutors empowered to operate in both federal and state courts. They would concentrate on the worst crimes committed by the city's worst criminals: murders, shootings, carjackings, and sexual assaults. These prosecutors would be designated as special U.S. assistant attorneys, and their mission would be simple: build the strongest cases against the city's most violent criminals. Baltimore police officers and residents have no hope that Marilyn Mosby can reverse the poor performance of her office. This plan would create a new standalone group that can work effectively with federal and local law enforcement, expertly handling important prosecutions of the worst violent criminals. Fifth, and finally, under federal law, defendants with certain gun crimes are presumed at risk to public safety and are detained until trial. Maryland should adopt a similar legal presumption for purposes of bail hearings in cases involving felony gun crimes. During my first year in office, I will submit legislation establishing a presumption at bail hearings that defendants are a public safety risk and therefore should be held until trial if they are charged with the use of a firearm in a criminal violence, the use of a firearm in furtherance of drug trafficking, or a felon in possession of a firearm. And for the record, I fully understand and agree that there are systemic causes for this level of violence and that there are long-term answers that we must work towards, like after-school mentorship programs, expanding workforce development initiatives, better schools. They all need to be improved, worked on, or developed. But we need to face the fact that we have people being murdered in broad daylight in this city, and the cart can't come before the horse. And the several hundred men who are running around this city, wreaking havoc, carrying illegal guns, and are willing to commit murder, we're starting with them. As Maryland's former Commerce Secretary, I know just how important the city is to our state, and I know that the quickest way to get businesses back, the quickest way to get people good paying jobs, and to get their lives turned around is to get these streets safe again. This is not a Republican issue. This is not a Democrat issue. It's a human issue. And as a mother and a new grandmother, I am not going to sit back and watch young black boys either commit murder or be murdered themselves. We have to do something about it. It's not going to be easy. I don't have all the answers, but I am not afraid to have the tough conversations necessary to get these things done. Thank you very much.